Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for.
All right, everybody, I'm back. Good to be back. So, tell you what, first of all, it's a Friday. I wasn't planning on recording. I'm in the room in the house that has a little bit of an echo, so I apologize. I hope the audio isn't too bad. But I'll tell you what, we got to go ahead and talk about a story that came across my timeline on Friday that is absolutely fascinating, okay? And so if you listen to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube, you know that, listen, we talk a ton of college football all year long. But this is the time of year that we start to ramp up our college basketball coverage. We'll be college basketball heavy through the end of the regular season, postseason, portal, etc. But every once in a while, there's going to be a college football story that reaches the mainstream that we have to talk about. And we certainly got one on Friday morning involving the Ohio State Buckeyes. So Ohio State wins the national championship over the course of the week back on Monday. Congrats to Ohio State. I was one of the critics post-Michigan. You lose to Michigan, but you go on a run. Ryan Day deserves all the praise he's getting. Idiots like me were wrong. But I bring it up because with the season over, now it becomes, okay, what is everybody doing season at Ohio State? Obviously, you have a bunch of guys graduating. You have guys like Quinshawn Judkins declaring for the draft. But for all those players that aren't going pro, you know what that also means? That tampering season is full speed ahead. So this is a sport, and listen, we love it, we hate it, but we essentially have perpetual free agency in college football because we all know these athletes are not employees of the school. They're not bound to contracts. And so basically everybody is a year-to-year free agent. And so why I bring it up is because on Friday morning, On3 put out an interesting report that basically everybody in college football is tampering with Ohio State's players trying to get them in the portal. Remember, portal closed late December, but the caveat is that basically if your season extended beyond December, then you had 5 days after your season to consider your future if you want to leave your school. That really incentivized players to kind of play through the college football playoff. The downside is that guess what that means? That means that you now, if you're Ohio State, you won a national championship, but you now have players that really have until this weekend to say, hey, you know I've had the opportunity to transfer for the past 6 weeks, but I'm going to wait till right now, and also schools to reach out, and that is exactly what happened. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's get to the story, because on Friday, On3 reported several Ohio State players are being tampered with hard. Carnell Tate is being offered over $1 million to get in the portal. There's reports and speculation on who it is. We'll get to that in a minute, but the big headline, the big story, Jeremiah Smith, the number one player in American high school last year, number one recruit in America. I would argue the best wide receiver that I saw at all of college football this year. Listen, I'm not an NFL scout, but I truly believe if he was in the draft, he'd probably be like number one on the board of any team that does not need a quarterback. I think he could go number one in this year's draft. I know we get hyperbolic on stuff like this sometimes. I truly believe it. Well, according to On3, he has been offered upwards of $4.5 to $5 million to enter the transfer portal. So let's go ahead and dive into this story. Let's go ahead and consider it because I think it's interesting. And I'll say this, I think there's polarizing thoughts on should he actually entertain these offers? Will he, could he, whatever. He's probably not going to. He's already tweeted that he's locked in, but it's just an interesting conversation to have, okay? So first of all, it's funny about the idea of trying to tamper to get him in the portal. Not funny if you're an Ohio State fan, but why I bring it up is because I was even thinking about it during the college football playoff run. If you watch the college football playoff, this guy not only dominated, but in the biggest moments made the biggest plays. Opening touchdown of the playoff for Ohio State against Tennessee sets the tone for the whole playoff. Rose Bowl MVP. Big play to end the national championship game, set up the field goal that basically gave Ohio State a lead that they would not relinquish. But I'll tell you what, I was even thinking about it like during the college football playoff. You saw all these reports of, Carson Beck's going to make this, Quinn Ewers could make that. And I actually did think to myself, I didn't tweet it, but I thought, if you have all this money, why not just give it to Jeremiah Smith? Because I'm pretty sure nobody can guard him one-on-one. Now, Texas did a good job of basically triple teaming him in the national semifinal. But basically, I think give Jeremiah Smith the money you were going to give to Carson Beck, And that guarantees you just as many wins, because I think if you can basically put the ball in the air, Jeremiah Smith will do the rest and go get it. So I'm not surprised that this report is coming out. Ironically, listen, we don't love to speculate on who the schools might be that could be potentially tampering. I will say that, kind of the industry belief is that probably, at least for Jeremiah Smith, that Miami is probably leading the charge. Not accusing Miami of anything. That's not my space. But what I will say, Jeremiah Smith is from the Miami area. Remember, he chose Ohio State over Miami. I think it's also worth noting, if you remember, Hayes Fawcett basically told the story of like, hey, I had 2 edits ready to go. Like, I had the Ohio State edit, and middle of the night, I get a text or a call from Jeremiah before National Signing Day, say, hey, make me a Miami edit just in case. So he nearly ended up a Hurricane. He goes to Ohio State. He wins a national championship. But Miami appears allegedly, reportedly, to be like, hey, come on home, and we're going to go ahead and take care of you. Come be a hometown star. So is it going to happen? Listen, let's get into the should it happen, will it happen, could it happen, all that good stuff. So one, it ain't going to happen, okay? One, as I said, Jeremiah Smith already actually put out a tweet where he basically said, this is my home. This is where I'm staying. Don't believe all the reports that you see, whatever, okay? So that's one. Two, let's also be honest. Ohio State, they ain't scratching and clawing for money here. As a matter of fact, I actually reached out to somebody at the school earlier in the day, Friday, when these reports came out. And not only are they not having trouble raising money, they're going to set records with NIL funding after that national championship run. Now, you could argue if they had lost to Tennessee in the first round, what would that pool look like? The pool is going to be deep, and it is not going to be an issue. They are going to get all sorts of money. And then I think from Jeremiah Smith's perspective, listen, the ultimate end game is to get to the NFL. And, you could argue that Jeremiah Smith would do it anywhere. And I think that's the argument that people that want to see the chaos, want to see the Joker blowing up the hospital and walking away, want to see that craziness. They would argue Jeremiah Smith's going to be maybe the number 1 pick at any school in America. But I will say, if you want to go pro as a wide receiver, Ohio State's probably the place you should be. Number 1, and listen, I know they sign a lot of 5-star guys, but it's worth noting, look at the pros right now. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, Emeka Ibuka is going to be there next year, Chris Olave. All these guys have played at Ohio State, played under the current wide receivers coach, Brian Hartline. There's some others as well, Terry McLaurin, etc. So it's like, this is where you want to be if you're a wide receiver. And I don't think money's going to be an issue, but I do think it is worth noting. Like, is this something that Jeremiah Smith should at least be considering as he gets set to pursue his sophomore year? I thought it was interesting. This was USA Today. They actually put out an article on Friday, and here is the headline of that article via Matt Hayes. Forget loyalty. Ohio State's Jeremiah Smith should enter the transfer portal to cash in after national title. Love the headline, does not beat around the bush. And essentially the argument is this, is it's life-changing money. It's a lot of money. And again, it's exactly what I just said, which is that basically no matter where you go, you are going to be the number 1 pick in the draft 2 years from now. You'll certainly be the first player off the board from the wide receiver position in the 2027 NFL draft. So why not go and make the money? Here is a direct quote. Let's see here. Basically, he says, more to the point, with the NFL still 2 years away for Smith, why risk a potential career-defining injury without earning as much money as you possibly can? This isn't about staying true to your school. It's about financial security in a physical, demanding sport. Well, again, Ohio State ain't letting them walk out that door for nothing. They're going to take care of them, etc. And so I understand that argument. I understand the argument of, well, wait a second now. Like, just make as much money as you can, because no matter where you go, you're going to be the number 1 pick. And by the way, if something bad happens, get as much money as you can now. I get all that. But like I said, I just look at him and I think he is going to be the first wide receiver off the board, any school that he goes to. But Ohio State is going to best prepare him. And I think the other thing is, 1, you just won a national championship. 2, it is also worth noting, and I think this is kind of important as far as I'm concerned, is that you're going to be in position to do it every single year that you're at Ohio State. No Will Howard's gone, but Julian Sainz coming in at quarterback. You're still going to have plenty of talent around you. Carnell Tate, I don't believe those rumors either. So if you're Jeremiah Smith, do what you do. Stay where you're at. But you talk about an interesting story that came up on the timeline on Friday boy, oh boy, what an interesting one involving Jeremiah Smith. If you enjoy this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. Oh, by the way, make sure you're following our Torres on Ohio State account, Torres on Ohio State, for all your late breaking Ohio State news.